7:14 on this Wednesday morning. Want to welcome to microphone number 2, Denis Dunderdale, Arkansas Game and Fish. Welcome back.
Good morning, Dale. It's good to be back. Man, how about this weather, huh?
Love it.
This is what living in the Ozarks is about, in my opinion. Because, it's funny. I talked to a lot of folks that, grew up in the South. I didn't, as you can tell by my accent, I'm sure. But they just love the heat. Oh, man, that is not me.
I don't mind the warm weather. 92, 93 degrees, that's not bad.
No, I'm talking about the triple digits. I mean,
but that dew point, I logged into National Weather Service one day. It's a Saturday doing some work outside. I thought, why am I just dripping wet with sweat? I mean, it was only like 93 degrees.
Yeah.
But the humidity was 88% and the dew point was 77.
Oh, gosh.
I thought, oh, my goodness.
It's like it's raining inside the truck. Yeah. Well, of course, with that, the weather change, and I can actually feel it. I'm kind of sinus sensitive a little bit. I can feel it now. But I'm also noticing, too, some of the wildlife signs. The doves are moving heavily. Of course, dove season's going to be coming up. That opens, I believe it's the 5th, if I've got that right. Yep, sure enough, September 5th. Till the 24th of October, and it opens again later in December, the 19th, I think. But anyway, so that's the first of the regular seasons. We also have not we have, but there is the urban hunt that's in Bull Shoals and Lakeview. Of course, those are game and fish sanctioned, but they're really managed and put on by the local municipalities. They're the ones who decide they want to do that. And usually it's a function of excess doe population or deer population, and of course every community around here has it. But Bull Shoals and Lakeview decided they wanted to try to reduce their numbers, and that's managed by. It was at one time managed by the Arkansas Bow Hunters Association. Now there's a new group, the Bull Shoals Urban Bow Hunters Association, and that's headed up by a gentleman up in Bull Shoals. His name is Bill Cracker. Craker, and you can reach him. I'll give you his number. You can reach Bill at 870-321-1447. And we'll give that number out again, or you can call me, and I'll give my number at the end of the show, too, and we'll hook you up. It might be a little late to get permits for that because there's a whole approval process.
Is that what weapon is used for the
That's
urban?
Archery only.
Archery only.
Yeah, archery only. And there's a lot of restrictions that go with that. Of course, it's unlimited harvest. You can take as many deer as you want. The first deer has to be a doe, and it has to be donated to Hunters Feeding the Hungry. So,
really?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of altruism in there. But you also have to shoot from 10 feet above the ground, or basically a tree stand, or some kind of elevated platform, an approved elevated platform. And there are other restrictions, too. There's too numerous to get into. We'll take up the whole show just reading that. Probably next late spring, maybe what we'll do is have Bill come in and we'll do a show just on that, because there's a preparatory period. You've got to qualify. You have to take a bow hunter education course, which is very similar to the hunter ed course, in addition to the hunter ed course. So you need 2 hunter cards for that. And then there's also a proficiency shoot. You have to be able to hit a target from 20 yards, hit the vital zone. So there's a lot of things you have to do, and it takes a little time. You can't just show up.
I can imagine in an urban hunt, which means in a populated area, which means you have residential structures and things.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, and so, there's a bit to it. But anyway, that's the first one opening up, and I think that also opens the same day. I could be wrong about that date, but it's opening early in September and runs all the way through to the end of February. Which, when we talk to our counterparts in other parts of the country and talk about different hunting and fishing seasons, because we don't have a fishing season here. Our seasons are open 12 months, but some states do. They open and close. Hunting, of course, does. We have a 6-month, you can shoot deer 6 months out of the year if you look at September, October, November, December, January, and February. Half the year you can hunt deer, which is amazing. I mean, that's unprecedented. I shouldn't say unprecedented, but it's very rare. Most states have a much more limited season, and you can.
So our deer population in Arkansas must be quite.
It's up there, yeah. I don't have the numbers. I could probably get those, or if you wanted to know what the population is, that's on our website at agfc.com.
I need to open that up anyway.
Yeah, and you can just follow the hunting links to deer, and then they give survey data and things like that.
Huh.
However, you can shoot up to 6 deer statewide. Now, you can't shoot them all in one place. In fact, last month when Corporal Small was here, we talked about that, and he and I both got some calls after the show wanting to know more about what we call it zone hopping is kind of a nickname we give to it. But, for example, we're in Zone 3 here in this part of Baxter County, and the zone is split by a combination of the White River and Highway 14 when you get over into Marion County. So north of that line is Zone 3, and south of it or southwest of that is Zone 2. And you can take 4 deer in either zone. So you can get, say, if you're in this part of Baxter County, you can take 4 deer here. And then you can go, say, down to, Big Flat or someplace, south of the river, and get another 2. You can get 6 deer, which is also a huge bag limit compared to what a lot of other states do. So
there it is, deer hunting zone map. There it is.
There you go. Yep.
Found it.
Yep, that's it. So that's kind of how that works. And I'm sorry to say the guidebooks, the hunting regulation booklets that everybody so anxiously awaits this time of year, they're printed. They'll be delivered to the regional offices. Ours, of course, here is over in Calico Rock, the North Central region. And those will be available to them on the 29th, and then they'll be distributed out to the outlets who sell licenses and resorts and places like that shortly after that. So somewhere around the 1st of the month is when we should be seeing those.
I got a comment about this Zone 3. Zone 3 is a V shape, and Baxter County is north and northeast of the White River. And I'm surprised that that Zone 3 backs up to Current River and Black River.
Yeah, it goes all the way over to the other side of. It splits Lawrence County. It's past Ash Flat and all of that. Yep.
So, and of course, Current River drops into Black at Pocahontas, doesn't it?
Yes, sure does. Huh. And then the Black dumps into the White River down in the
southeast part of Independence County there.
Correct. Yeah.
So Zone 3 includes part. This is funny here though. Well, I mean, it is what it is. Extreme northeast Boone County, half of Marion, 2/3 of Baxter, all of Fulton, Randolph, Sharp.
Right.
And looks like portions of Independence. Wow. Okay.
Right. And if you look in that northwest part there, you'll see how it's Highway 14.
Yeah.
For a short period, Highway 62. But once you get to basically Yellville.
Then it becomes the White River.
Then it becomes, or I should say Flippin, not Yellville. It becomes the White River and pretty much follows that line. And takes it all the way through Batesville to the confluence of the Black River. And then it becomes the Black River. So they try to use natural boundaries so that it's kind of hard to mistake if you've crossed the White River or not. You have. But you do need to know which highways create those boundaries.
Now, why did they do this with Zone 5 of Northeast Arkansas? They took just a little splinter of the Northeast counties. Looks like Clay County, Greene, and part of Craighead, and just a narrow width there.
That's Crowley's Ridge.
Okay.
And so it's a whole different topography. There'd be a different population and different.
Really?
Different.
You monitor it that close?
Yeah. Wow. Well, if you're familiar with that part of the state,
yeah.
When you cross Crowley's Ridge, it's like going onto another planet.
Uh-huh.
You leave the delta and you go into woodland.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have a much different type of habitat and different hunting opportunities and that type of.
Yeah, I forgot about Crowley's Ridge.
Yeah, and that's what that's about.
What about the black bear population? I've noticed here bear hunting zone map I won't pull up. What about bear?
Well, the way they do that hunt, again, we try to manage the bear population to be, what's healthiest for the bears themselves, but also combined with that, the carrying capacity, which is the term they'll use for how many bear you can fit in a particular area. That's referred to as the carrying capacity. And there's two types. There's the habitat or the biological capacity, and then there's also the cultural capacity. How many bears do you want to have hanging around? Do you want them? This area used to have, well, let's see, 100 years or so ago, in the middle 1800s, there were 50,000 black bears in Arkansas. And in pre-settlement days, there's no telling how many there were. This area was once known as the Black State. Instead of the natural state, we were called the bear state, not the black state. And through market hunting and habitat loss and all the different reasons that populations diminish, that number was reduced in the earlier part of this century to somewhere between 25 and 50 bears, mostly found down in the lower White River Valley, down in the Arkansas Post region. And so they built that back up, and what they did was swapped smallmouth bass and some turkeys for black bears. Got a few hundred of them and put them in areas such as the Ouachitas here and elsewhere, and they've grown it back. And they know that bears will grow at about, as most populations will, at about 10% per year. So what they've done was got this up to about 4,000, somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 is what we think the population is now. And it's what we think is right on the money. We could let it go, and they would start to populate even more so, but that's when you'd see even more nuisance bear issues that you have. So what we do is try to figure out what the population is, what the population growth would be if they weren't hunted, and then allow that many bears to be harvested. So let's say 400 bears, we'll just pick a number, is what the biologists would determine they want to take out of the population this year. So they'll set up a quota hunt to say, we can take 400 bears this year. And of that 400, X number will be in Zone 1, another will be in Zone 2, and I don't have my map. I think there's 3 zones. Is that right?
Yeah, on the bear, I'm showing Zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5A, 6, and 7.
Oh, okay. So they have some split zones. So there's a handful, far fewer than there are.
Well, the zones
are
huge. Zone 1 is Benton, Washington, part of Crawford County on the western border, all the way over to Faulkner, White, Independence, Lawrence, and Randolph splits. Zone 7's northeast down to I-40.
Yeah.
Zone 6 is south of I-40, but east of or west of, say, Marion, Arkansas. It's just kind of a cutout there.
Yeah, and it's sort of a star wheel. If you look on the map, it sort of radiates around the middle of the state.
Right.
But anyway, what they'll do is they'll determine what's the quota that they want to be able to take out of the population. And, in the example I was using, say it's 400. They'll determine based on population studies, and they put radio collars on the bears, and they study them and do all that. And they'll say, for example, well, we can take 100 out of Zone 1 because there's a large number in Zone 1 this year, and we can take 75 out of Zone 2, and et cetera. And the way it works is from October 1st, which is when the season opens, each day you call a phone number after 5 o'clock that day, but before you hunt the next day, to find out if the season is still open. And based on the checking information, the biologist will determine when they hit that magic number, and they'll shut the season down. And in years of a high yield harvest, they'll shut it down after a week or so. And in other years, if there's a lot of acorns and things deep in the woods so that the bears are hard to get and they don't harvest that many, it may run all the way through the whole season.
Where's the largest concentration of bears? Would it be in this part of the state, or would it be in the west central? It's
between the Ozarks and the Ouachitas.
Really?
It's in those 2 areas there. Yeah.
So basically, like Russellville to here.
Russellville to here, that would be the Ozark National Forest, of course, up to
Magazine and Huntsville.
All of that. We also have pretty decent population. I don't know the numbers, but we have a decent population over in the Sylamore National Forest.
Really?
Yep, over in the Calico, between Push Mountain Road and Mountain View, basically. And
I haven't seen a bear in a long time. I was coming back from Little Rock one day. It's still daylight savings time, but it was about 8 o'clock in the evening when a bear ran out in front of my vehicle. And I slowed down and let him cross Highway 14 there. You know where that old treasure chest store is down there? Yeah, in that vicinity.
Yeah. And that's typically where you're going to find them, is in, I don't want to say unpopulated areas, but more sparsely populated areas. Bear are extremely shy creatures.
Yeah.
There's a fair number of them. We get, like I said, 4,000 to 5,000 of them. But they're extremely shy. Their habitat really calls for highly secluded areas where people just aren't necessarily going to be.
Yeah.
When we do run into them,
go ahead, about 30 seconds.
When we do run into them, what you usually find is they're usually yearling males who have been kicked out of the range by the mom, and they've been sent on their way to make their way in the world.
They're there.
Kind of like giving a 14-year-old the keys to the car and say, you're on your own, kid. They're not going to know where to go or what to do, but they'll give it a whirl.
for visiting with Denis Dunderdale, Arkansas Game and Fish. Follow along. He'll be here for the second half of the show. Go to www.agfc.com and follow along. And we're going to bring you the news right now, so stick around. We'll be right back. 7:35. Continuing our discussion on Arkansas Game and Fish. Denis Dunderdale. I'll tell you what, this stuff really gets interesting.
You know, Dale, we were talking about the black bear population and how it diminished to almost nothing, and then was brought back. And this is beyond anecdotal. I think this is actually profound information. But they did bring that population back. It was through strong management, and I will say that's one of the shining stars of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, because they were the ones that did that. That program, that large, it's considered a large carnivore restoration program, is how you would look that up if you wanted to research it. That's considered the most successful large carnivore restoration program in the history of the world.
Wow.
Yeah, right here in Arkansas. Yeah.
So how do you get an accurate count? I mean, you're not going to send out the census forms to the black bears to fill out, So how do you make an educated they projection on your, whether you're looking at deer population, bear population, or even elk, turkey?
They do it in several different ways, but some of it they fly, because they do radio collar and sample. They'll use tranquilizers. They'll collar a bear, and then track her. Always females. They don't mess with the males. And they do proration surveys, and they algorithms that will say, okay, well, in this area we know we have this many collared, and that was X percent of the population, and it's going to grow at this percent per year. So they'll make a lot of assumptions, but then they'll actually go out on foot and they'll do site counts. They'll do hunter reports. They'll just pretty much a look and see, and then a little bit of science and a lot of math.
Wow, interesting.
And again, it's not an exact science. When you say between 4,000 and 5,000, that's a 20% swing, which is a pretty large margin of error by most statisticians' counts. But it gives you a sense of, is it bigger than a bread box kind of thing?
True.
Yeah. So we've got a few things coming up. One is, you mentioned at the beginning of the show, we've got the hunter education course going on this Saturday. Actually, we've got 3 of them in this region this Saturday. The one you mentioned, of course, is at Fred Berry Education Center over on Crooked Creek in Yellville. That starts at 8 o'clock. They all start at 8 o'clock, I believe. One of them is 8:30, but let's say 8 o'clock. And that's there in Yellville. Then we also have another one over in Mountain View.
Really?
At the Mountain View High School. That's also this Saturday. And that one's 8:30. I'm sorry, that's right. That's at 8:30. You can find contact information on that, again, on the Game and Fish website, agfc.com. Follow the education links to Hunter Education, and you can look up where the classes are by county. Of course, Mountain View is Stone County. And Corporal Chad Cruz and John Chrisman, the wildlife officers, will be leading that one up. And then we have another one going on over in Batesville, over in Independence County. And I can't remember if that one is at the college or if that's at the extension office. But again, it will be on the website under Independence County. You can pull that up. And our dear friend Mary Zirkle, she's been teaching hunter education for quite a while.
Let's see, right here it's showing Potlatch Conservation Education Center at Casco, Arkansas.
Yeah, look for Independence County. And
Boone County's got one.
That's right. Yep, Boone County.
Oh, that's 9/12 though.
That's September 12th, and
What county did you say?
have 3 of them there. They'll run 3 consecutive Saturdays in Boone County, and that will be at the Duran Center, I believe.
What county did you say, Chuck?
Independence.
Okay, let me pull that up here. Independence County. 8:29, 8:30 to 6:30. UACCB at Batesville on White Drive.
Right.
You can call 501-345-0367 or 870-793-8197 for those who talk to either Mary or Billy concerning that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, that's Mary Zirkle. She is she's a good friend of Game and Fish. She's been teaching hunter ed since the 90s. And she'll do 6 or 8 a year.
Really?
She's quite a gal.
Well, when you hold them from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., this is not just stick your toe in the water type stuff. You wade in pretty deep with this.
It is. It's a 10-hour class, and of course it's state law. You've got to have a hunter education card if you were born after 1968. and you want to hunt by yourself, there's provisions if you want to go with somebody and sit immediately next to them within arm's reach of them, then you can defer getting that card. But for the most part, you have to have that card, and it requires a 10-hour class, minimum 10-hour class. Some classes, they'll do additional things and make it longer. But it covers more than just hunter safety. When this thing started back after World War II, that's how the hunter safety program got going. GIs coming back from the war were never hunted, but now they were warriors, so they'd do that. And there were tons of accidents. State of New York was the first one, and most of the states followed soon after. But that's how they started, and it started off as hunter safety. That's pretty much what they focused on.
I think that's what we had in high school 40 years ago.
That's right. And it was a good course.
It was.
It covered a lot of good stuff. Now it's expanded well beyond just hunter safety. It also gets heavy into hunter ethics. Of course, we do cover the legal aspects in terms of regulations and that sort of thing, but we get a bit into strategy. I mean, we're certainly not going to make anybody an expert hunter, but we do talk about the basic strategies, whether you're going to be stalking or posting or standing or this, that, or the other. We talk about shot placement and the combination of ethics as well as skill associated with making a.
Now, what do you mean by ethics in hunting? What do we?
Well, for example, the way we open that topic up is under the concept of just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right. It's kind of knowing what the right thing to do when nobody else is looking. And of course, when you're in the woods, if you're hunting by yourself, there's nobody there to kind of check on you, so you really do have to kind of dig into your inner fiber to know what's right and what's wrong, whether it's legal or not. A good example of that would be. We'll ask the class, is it legal or illegal to shoot a baby squirrel out of a nest? A lot of people would think that's illegal. The fact is it's not illegal, but it's certainly not right.
Yeah.
Another one would be shooting a duck on the water. There's kind of an ethical code among duck hunters that you shoot ducks in the air, but it's not illegal if you shoot them on the water. And if you've got a kid who's never shot a duck before and that's going to be his chance for the day, well, you might let him do it. But if it's a seasoned duck hunter, there's not a whole lot of sport in it. We talk about the concepts of fair chase, which goes back to the Teddy Roosevelt theories of ethics and give the game a fair chance, basically, and make it a sport rather than shooting fish in a barrel type of concept. So there's unwritten laws that society expects you to follow. And we talk about those, and we really try to impress upon the students, primarily the kids, but we have adults that are just getting into hunting too, so them as well, to really think about these things in advance and make up your mind well before you go into the woods. Just like any ethical decision that we make in life, if you wait till you're in the situation to give it your first thought, it's kind of hard to tell what your decision might be. But if you think about it in advance and put your constitution in place before you go out there, then at least you have thought about it and will hopefully make the right decision when the time comes up, because it's not, you're not being, you may be tempted by the desire to want to, shoot that deer.
You got to live with your own conscience.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's where we get into the ethics part of it. There's also the ethics of following the regulations. Again, our game wardens do a phenomenal job. I have no idea how they cover the amount of territory they do, but they certainly seem to show up when least expected. But still, with that, there's a limited number of them, and way fewer of them than there are hunters out there. So deciding whether or not you're going to follow the regulations is an ethical decision, as well as a legal decision, of course. If you get caught, it's expensive. But you have to determine for yourself if you're going to risk, some taking that shot when you know it's not legal, or maybe it is legal, but it's not the right thing to do. So that's kind of where we go with that.
Good points.
We also talk about wildlife management and the concepts. We talked a little bit about that with the black bear population and how we establish deer zones, and we talk about how hunters are a huge component in the wildlife management exercises that we go on to do. Without the hunters taking those right numbers of whatever it is out of the population, then the populations would be far more difficult to control, and we'd have much bigger problems than we do. So it's a lot. There's a lot of information there.
I want to point out about the hunter education course on the handout here. No guns or ammo are allowed in the classroom.
Absolutely.
I wanted to make that mention.
Right. Now, we will have some unloaded guns there that we'll use for demonstration purposes that we'll not to demonstrate.
They've probably got safety locks on them,
shooting,
too.
They do. And firing pins removed or, something like that. But we do want to show the different types of actions, and a lot of times, this is the first time some of these students have ever put their hands on a firearm. So we want to let that happen in a supervised environment.
We bring a shotgun, handgun, and a rifle?
I'll bring in 3 different types of shotguns. I'll bring in a double barrel, a pump, and a semi-automatic. I'll bring in a bolt-action rifle, a lever-action rifle, and depending on what's available, we'll bring in different types of handgun actions too, at least a semi-automatic and a revolver of at least one type, and sometimes if one of the instructors has other samples, then we'll bring in those to show them the different types of actions and how they work and the advantages or disadvantages. And
visiting with Denis Dunderdale, Arkansas Game and Fish. Follow along, WWWAGFC. We're going to take a quick break, finish out the program with Denis right after this. 7:49 on a beautiful Wednesday. Love this weather, Denis.
I'm loving it too. Just also to mention the other seasons coming up. Again, you can find all of this on agfc.com. Just follow the hunting link to seasons and bag limits, I think is how that one's titled. But anyway, we have the archery season, the regular deer archery season. That opens September 26th, and it runs all the way till this year's leap year, isn't it? Or next year, I should
next
say,
year,
February 29th. So that runs through the end of February. And then the modern gun, which we commonly refer to as the rifle season, that starts, for most zones anyway, that will start November 14th. And they kind of break that up a little. It runs from November 14th through December 6th. And then they have a Christmas season from the 26th to the 28th.
On what now? What are you on?
On modern gun for deer.
Deer.
And that's in these zones. Again, different zones have different dates that open and close depending on their population and how they're trying to manage those herds in those areas. And then, of course, we've got the muzzleloader. This is confusing. You really need a scorecard to follow it all. But the muzzleloader season, that opens, again, in these zones. That opens October 17th and goes through the 25th, and then it closes. And then it opens up for a couple of days, December 12th to the 14th. And different zones or different seasons. So there's a lot of opportunity just if you're hunting on private ground, those are the dates for those. If you're going to hunt public ground, we refer to those as the wildlife management areas or the WMAs, and you see those signs all over the place, Each one of those, and there's, I forget how many there are. There's 168 I want to guess at, but that number could be off. But there's a bunch. We have a lot of public hunting grounds in Arkansas. Each one of those has their own separate set of regs that may be exactly the same as the statewide regs, or they may be different for that particular area. So you want to check. It's really important to get the guidebook. And if you're going to hunt, say, in the Sycamore National Forest, you want to know what the state regs are because those apply across the state no matter where you are. But then in the Sycamore Forest, there's also different dates or different bag limits. For example, that 6 deer limit doesn't apply to all the WMAs. Some of them you can only take 2 deer, or some of them you can take different numbers. So you really want to look.
So we got state regulations and we have zone regulations.
We have state regulations, we have zone regulations, and then we have WMA regulations that are specific to that WMA.
So they stair-step.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So it can get confusing. Once you understand the concept of it, it does sort of make sense, but you've got to have that guidebook. Or at least go to the website, or if you don't have access to that, call our number in Little Rock. I'll give that number. It's area code 501-223-6300. And just ask the operator, or whoever answers the phone, that you have a hunting regulations question, and they'll send you right into the Wildlife Management Division. Or if it's a license question, they'll send you to the Licensing Division, or whatever it is. They'll get, a lot of times the receptionist will know the answer because they do train those folks to be able to handle the more common questions. But if it's something particular about a WMA, they'll hook you up with the right answer.
I clicked on this, and they've got an events calendar here, and there's so many events through Arkansas Game and Fish. Just on Saturday, ATA Shoot, Rick Evans Grandview, Archery Range Casco, Guided Hike in Fort Smith, Creature Feature in Jonesboro, Canoe Kayak Program Fort Smith, Snakes of Arkansas is Little Rock,
right?
Bug Jars Jonesboro, all about alligators in Pine Bluff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, what about the laser shot? What about use the lasers? That'd be another show for.
We do actually. I've got a laser shot. It's a clever device. I don't know if you've seen it or not. I have it at. Usually we use it for hunter education, but we also use it just for public relations, and we'll bring it. For example, we'll take it to the Ducks Unlimited dinner, which is coming up on the. Is it the 17th? Is that a Saturday? That sounds right. That would be the same day as the 17th. That day,
September?
The day's muzzle loading opens, yeah. That's the evening of the Ducks Unlimited dinner, and that will be at the fairgrounds. And we'll have a booth there, and I'll have the laser shot, and we use that for the greenheads, the kids. Essentially, it's a computerized video game that projects up onto the wall and has animated hunting scenes. It might be ducks, it might be deer, it might be turkeys, it might be something else. Some of them are live video, some of them are animated video, but it'll have hunting scenes where the ducks will fly through the air, and we have these laser-activated guns where you shoot at the screen, and if you hit the target, the duck will fall out of the air. If you don't, it'll keep flying, and
cool.
You get your scores that way. And we have some shoot, don't shoot scenarios in there. Do you take the shot or not?
Final 2 minutes. I want you to make sure you get everything in you need to.
Yeah, okay. Well, a couple of things I want to promote for the Fred Berry Conservation Education Center. So we're still wrapping up the first Saturday show events that we have going through the rest of the year. On September 5th, they'll be doing target archery introduction. So basically, archery shooting 101. Then in October 3rd, which will be the first Saturday, Corporal Tim Davenport, he'll be teaching basic bow hunting, which kind of plays off of the September one. And then in November, we'll have knots for the outdoors, and December, we're going to have winter bird feeding. We had the fishing derby last month. That worked out pretty well. So there's a lot of things going on there. Again, you can go to that website, and if you click on the Fred Berry Education Center, it will give their specific calendar and all the things going on there.
I haven't been down there, but I need to come down there and just visit. I hear it's quite the facility.
Oh, Dale, it is a beautiful, beautiful place. We're fortunate Fred Berry is still with us and still very active, and of course he was the one who arranged for the donation of that property, and he donated it to the Game and Fish Foundation, who built, it's just a gorgeous facility there. It's 450 acres. I'm sure it's off a little bit, but it's a good-sized piece of property.
Quick question. We're down to 30 seconds before the theme song plays. If people want to talk to you, can they contact you somehow?
Absolutely. My cell phone number is 870-321-5548. I'd give you my email address. I'll tell you, it's Denis with one N, DENIS .Dunderdale at AGFC, Arkansas Game Fish Commission, agfc.ar.gov. So Denis.Dunderdale at agfc.ar.gov, or call me at 321-5548, and we'll take care of whatever you got.
You bet. Dennis, thanks for being here today. It's always good to have Arkansas Game and Fish Commission here. Appreciate being here. See you on the 30th of September.
You bet. Look forward to it.
That wraps it up. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.